Hello geographers, welcome to this video on sustaining ecosystems with a focus on the case study of sustainable management. So this case study focuses in on the Costa Rican rainforest and looks at the Samasati Nature Reserve. So it fits in the specification here, a case study to illustrate attempts to sustainably manage an area of tropical rainforest. And obviously this case study is looking at ecotourism. It's also, though, a community programme, and it also helps to sustainably manage the forest at a local scale. So Costa Rica is here in Central America. You can see it in the southern region of the map. So it's in South America, and the whole country is more than 100 times smaller than the Amazon rainforest. But it is home to 6% of the world's biodiversity and attracts over 2 million tourists a year. So a bit of history here of the forests in Costa Rica. In the 1960s, Costa Rica experienced rapid deforestation due to cattle ranching and agricultural development. Between 1970 and 1990, deforestation reached one of the highest rates in the world. 32,000 hectares were cut down each year. So the government finally realised that this wasn't a really good approach to forestry and using their forests. So they created protected areas throughout the country. They passed laws preventing deforestation and gave landowners financial incentives to protect the forest, paying them to keep it rather than cut it down. There are 28 national parks and nature reserves now in Costa Rica, and 24% of the land is now protected. So there have been some strategies to sustainably manage the forests in Costa Rica. The first one is agroforestry. Now, this is where trees and crops are grown together. So the crops can really benefit from the shelter of the trees, and the trees obviously prevent soil erosion, and the crops benefit from the nutrients from the leaf litter. The second strategy that they use is selective logging. So trees are felled only when they reach a certain height. So young trees are allowed to mature to ensure that the height of the canopy is always maintained. They do afforestation, so the opposite of cutting them down, trees are planted to replace the original forest. Secondary forest lacks, though, biodiversity of that primary forest. It takes a long time for species to re-establish, a couple of 100 years. And they do monitoring. So they use satellite technology and photos to ensure that no illegal activities are taking place and that landowners follow the guidelines for sustainability. So we're going to focus in on ecotourism, which is a type of sustainable development that aims to create local employment while conserving the natural environment. Now, if you were lucky enough to go on an ecotourism holiday, you would experience these key characteristics. An ecotourism holiday does not damage the environment. It is on a relatively small scale. It consults with the local community about planned developments, and it ensures that infrastructure improvements benefit local people as well as tourists. So our focus is in on an ecotourist holiday in the Samasati Nature Reserve. And you can see there the Samasati Nature Reserve there in the southeastern part of Costa Rica. You can see it's right near the border. The green line there is the border. So it's in southeast Costa Rica. So have a look at the accommodation. This is a typical lodge in Samasati Nature Reserve, and you immediately can see it blends in with the natural environment. No heavy machinery was used in the construction. The nature retreat employs only local people. You can see the colours blending in with the landscape. Drinking water comes from natural springs. You can see only biodegradable soap, detergents and shampoo are allowed. Natural light and ventilation minimize energy use. The buildings are on stilts to reduce humidity and allow that natural drainage. The buildings fit between the trees in the forest. No old trees were destroyed. And the timber came from an afforestation project in Costa Rica. But there are some disadvantages of Samasati. Sometimes the locals may lose their traditional way of life as they become accustomed to Western cultures. Anybody visiting the forest has the potential to disturb the flora and the fauna, so the vegetation and the animals that live there. Getting to the rainforest uses fossil fuels through air travel, and Samasati is a profit-making business. Ecotourism holidays are often expensive and they're only accessible by wealthy people. Have a look at this exam practice question. So pause the video here and see if you can plan the question. Obviously, the first thing that you would do here is bug it. So this is a case study of sustainable management of an area of tropical rainforest. So Costa Rica, and it says evaluate the effectiveness of one way in which an area of tropical rainforest you have studied is being sustainably managed. So evaluate is your key word here. So you are looking at both the positives and the negatives of the way that that one area of tropical rainforest is being managed. What's the good? What's the bad? So pause the video here, make a plan, perhaps go back and pause it on the good and the bad of this management. On the next slide is a model answer. There's your mark scheme. Have a look at what you have written and compare it. Did you reach this top level? Remembering that this answer demonstrates thorough knowledge of one way in which an area of tropical rainforest is being sustainably managed. That's your assessment objective 1, with a thorough evaluation of the effectiveness of that sustainable management. Assessment objective 3, looking at that application. It's going to be shown by included well-developed ideas, so really explaining, making your point, giving your evidence, and then explaining it. It must include place-specific detail, so you must make reference to Samasati. So let's have a look at this. Does this model answer reach those 6 marks? One way that the rainforest in Costa Rica has been sustainably managed is through ecotourism. The Samasati Nature Reserve in southeast Costa Rica has done this by not using heavy machinery in the construction of the retreat, only using timber that has been sourced from afforestation projects and creating zones where tourists can and cannot go. This is a sustainable form of management as it has reduced disturbance of species and habitats within the forest. However, this is only partially effective because wildlife still has the potential to be disturbed. This means that some species may migrate from their natural habitat, which may have a long-term impact on biodiversity in the area. Compare your answer. Have a look at the mark scheme. How did you get on? Look at the what went well and the even better if. Good luck.